What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So the other day, we had a bit of a surprising announcement for the Switch with the game that's actually missing the platform, and after this announcement was made online, Nintendo Direct started to trend all over the place, and we're going to go over exactly why that is here today. Also, we are going to be talking about the PlayStation Plus lineup for the month of June, showing some PS1 and PSP games heading to the service, and we'll also be talking about an announcement from PlayStation with a pretty big feature heading to the PS5 before Microsoft is able to get it to their Xbox. So if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton, and if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with Armored Core 6. Now, this game is coming out August 25th, and I'm very excited for it, and in fact, yesterday, a bunch of previews went up as an embargo lifted. Many people were able to see the game kind of being played in front of them with a hands-off preview, this at Summer Game Fest, and we did learn quite a few details about this game, and we also got some new gameplay footage. For example, Famitsu just posted some up, and some of the details included a lot of verticality to these different levels that you'll be going through. Remember, it's not an open world or anything there, it's just mission-based as you go, and if you fail a mission, you can then go right to a select screen that'll allow you to just kind of edit your core and add or remove certain weapons or aspects to it there. It looks like you'll have plenty of firepower to back you up, and the melee combat is very satisfying is what was described. And there's also a few things, as people were curious, taken from the Souls games, which includes a stagger meter. So, of course, if you beat up a certain opponent enough, they'll fall down in a staggered state, and you'll do more damage with every hit there. So, visually speaking, it looks awesome. The lighting, the details around the different cores, the movement, it looks great. And I'm really looking forward to checking out Armored Core 6 in August, just a couple of months from now, and something tells me this is probably going to end up being the best-selling Armored Core, mostly because it's not very difficult for them to do that at this point. Also, it looks like we've learned of another new project with Microsoft and People Can Fly, who made Outriders. And Outriders, I know it wasn't necessarily for everyone, but it was a pretty solid game when you got past some of the launch issues. But a third-person shooter with kind of those online live service RPG elements, it was alright. But we can see this posted up over on Pure Xbox, as Xbox reportedly enters new agreement to develop a AAA title with People Can Fly. Now, according to them, it's called Project Maverick, and it's been allocated a budget of roughly $30 to $50 million, and it will be a game based on the intellectual property rights of the publisher, which would be Microsoft. So it's hard to say if this is an existing intellectual property with Microsoft, although I'm sure there are some that you could see People Can Fly pull from. Remember, they have worked with Gears of War in the past. Yes, that was Gears of War Judgment, but still they could work with an intellectual property that Microsoft might have shelved currently, or maybe they want to make a brand new one, and that would then belong to Microsoft. But something to keep an eye on, though, it seems like this is going to be a little while as we're hearing about Project Maverick for the first time. So we'll see what they come up with probably a couple years from now. Oh, and we did get some unfortunate news around Forza Motorsport, which is looking good in terms of the gameplay, the visuals, and everything they're offering with the career mode. However, in order to, I guess according to them, circumvent cheating or just make sure everything's on the up and up, it will be always online for progression. Now, you can still play quick play, it's things like that offline, but if you want to get the full experience, especially with the career mode that has continued progression, you will have to be checking in online basically at all times. It's similar to what we have with Gran Turismo 7, and it's unfortunate considering these Forza games do get delisted every time. Like Forza Motorsport 7 is already gone and the new one's not out yet. So eventually this one will be delisted, and most likely servers will eventually be disconnected, and then the game will basically be unusable unless they patch in a way to play offline. So while I'm thinking well into the future, it's still an unfortunate thing, and it's pretty frustrating considering the career mode is basically playable completely single player. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium games that will be heading into the service next week on June 20th. And it looks like not all of these games were mentioned in the PlayStation blog post because they had something else they really wanted to focus in on, which in their words is just an added benefit for PlayStation Plus Premium, but We'll get to that in a minute. Let's go over the list of games which was shared very neatly here by PlayStation UK. We, of course, have this card, but the list of titles, we'll start with Far Cry 6, which, I mean, that's obviously the headline game they have there right in the middle. It's a good Far Cry game. I felt that the ending, that wasn't as good, but the overall experience, it's Far Cry. If you're looking for that sort of open world, basically go around conquering different bases and checklist kind of game, there you go, Far Cry 6. Then we have Inscription, another good title there. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Shredder's Revenge. Awesome game to play, especially if you have some friends that you want to do couch co-op with. Definitely recommend. Remember, you can also play that online with others as well. Rogue Legacy 2. Then we have Solstice. Moving on to Tacoma, Deus Ex, Mankind Divided, Killing Floor 2, Lonely Mountains Downhill, Vampire the Masquerade, 100 Days Winemaking Simulator, A Hat in Time, Cardo, Forager, Dodgeball Academia, The Wild at Heart, Redout 2, Thief, MX vs. ATV Legends, Paw Patrol Mighty Pups, My Friend Peppa Pig, DC League of Super Pets, the Talos Principle Deluxe Edition, and LX2. Now moving over to the Classics catalog, we have a couple of PS1 games and a PSP game. That's starting with Killzone Liberation, which is, it's an interesting Killzone game. It's like an isometric, kind of top-down style Killzone game, but it was for the PSP and they had to kind of work within the limitations of that system. It's still a pretty cool game, and I recommend checking it out, especially if you're a fan of some of the older Killzone games. Another sort of spin on the franchise there. Worms, this is on the PS1, which is, it's always a good time. Play with some friends there. It's definitely cool. And then Herc's Adventure. This is a game that's not known as well. Herc's Adventures is also a very expensive game on the PS1. Very quirky game, but yeah, I'd recommend checking that one out definitely, as it's probably one that many people have missed. But overall, not a bad selection of games. However, it's definitely weighted more in line with the extra tier as opposed to the premium tier. I bring this up every single month. I'm sure many of you have realized this by now. Nothing for PlayStation 2, and I'm not a fan of Sony using the PS4 remasters of PS2 games as kind of that crutch of, oh, look, it's a PS2 game. No, grab PS2 games that we haven't seen on the platform yet and bring those up, because that library is massive. So I don't know if there's a situation right now with their PS2 emulator they have in-house, whether it's that with trophies or who knows, but that's the biggest thing I'd like to see them really make a push for. But otherwise, not a bad month for June. Remember, these will go live next week on the 20th. Next up, let's talk about the other feature that will be introduced. Now, there's no exact date on when this will be added in the PlayStation Plus Premium, just that it's in testing. We can see this post up over on PlayStation Blog, where they say we're currently testing cloud streaming for supported PS5 games. This includes PS5 titles from the PlayStation Plus game catalog and game trials, as well as supported digital PS5 titles that players own. When this feature launches, cloud game streaming for supported PS5 titles will be available for use directly on your PlayStation 5 console. Now, they say their goal is to add this as an additional benefit to PlayStation Plus Premium as part of their ongoing efforts to enhance the value of PlayStation Plus. So, I understand cloud gaming, not the best experience, but I also see a benefit here for someone who maybe sees a game pop up, whether it's on game trials, or if it pops up, say, on the PlayStation Plus Extra Premium, and you just want to try the game out before downloading potentially 100, 150 gigabytes, you just press a couple of buttons and you're at least sampling the game, and then you can decide if you want to spend, I guess, just the bandwidth or resource or just time downloading that game. And I mentioned they're sort of beating Microsoft to the punch here. While Microsoft has cloud streaming for games tied to their service, it's specifically tied to their subscription service with Game Pass. Sony is mentioning game trials and games that you own. Microsoft is also working on this. They just haven't launched it yet. And in fact, xCloud is still in beta. Whenever you use it, it's that kind of experience where they're collecting information still, and it even says beta when you fire it up. Now, the other thing with this, and I'm curious how far Sony is going to push this, because it does kind of seem like they're laying the groundwork to get to a point where you don't necessarily need a PlayStation to play PlayStation games. Okay, so obviously we know you can use your phone to like remote play and stream games that way, but I'm wondering if we get to a position where PS5 games can just be streamed on your PC or on your phone, similar to what happens right now with Xbox for their Game Pass service. But even going a step further, you can buy a PlayStation 5 game, say Spider-Man 2, and if you don't have a PS5, you can just stream it, like on your computer or on your cell phone. And who knows, maybe we get to a position where Sony works out application that's just used across the board for TVs, similar to what Microsoft is doing. The only thing that gives me pause is clearly we see Sony is more hardware focused for like the console itself than Microsoft, and they've shown that with their staggered PC releases and even games going into their subscription service later on. But Sony has also shown that they are interested in consumers outside of just the PlayStation 5 ecosystem. Those walls, that walled garden they have, they're still kind of looking outside of it and saying, wow, there's so many people out there. We could sell these very expensive to make games. So while I think cloud gaming still has a ways to go, there's a lot of improvement that has to happen. I'm thinking 30 years from now, will we really be at a point where cloud gaming is indistinguishable from native gaming? And then it's like, well, we'll sell it to you. You don't even need the console because we want to sell 50 million copies of this game, and getting over the hurdle of having to own a system is very important for them at that point. But that's a ways off. Right now, I think Sony is just looking at this as an added benefit to premium, but in the future, we'll see. Next up, let's talk about a surprising announcement for the Switch, and that's that a certain game is apparently skipping the platform. And this is certainly a weird one, and we'll talk about why, considering you figure the Switch, as popular as it is in Japan, most Japanese developers would want to get their games on the platform any way possible. And when you see something like Persona 3 Reload skip the platform, it does kind of make you scratch your head a bit. And in fact, that's what's happening. Now, we know it was revealed with Microsoft during their showcase, and there was a 48-hour embargo clause on that announcement that it would just have the Xbox logo to it for that time, after which the other platforms would officially be revealed. PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and PC, nothing for the Switch. Now, Persona 5 Tactic, that is going to be on the Switch. They've now revealed that after that 48-hour embargo, which, again, people are scratching their head around Persona 3 Reload. You figure the most popular system right now in Japan, and really worldwide at this point with that install size, you'd want to get a game like Persona 3 Reload there so you can get it out to as many people as possible. However, the thing that people realized is this has happened before, and that was specifically with those older Persona games that got ported everywhere, like Persona 3, FES, Persona 4, and even Persona 5. Remember, that was announced for Game Pass. Later on, there was a Direct that then put the Nintendo logo next to those games, and at that point, Atlus was doing the same thing, putting the Switch logo all over their marketing. So there was kind of this deal in place with Nintendo under an NDA, like, hey, we're not going to put your logo next to these games until you say it's good to go during a Direct. So now people are like, oh, well, obviously there's a Direct coming up, because why would Atlus skip this platform for Persona 3 Reload when it's such an obvious thing for them to do, that is put the game on the Switch? And then you got people like Nate out here stoking the flames with tweets like these, where he says, I wouldn't discount June from a possible Direct, like there could be a Direct as soon as next week or something. In fact, that's the word going around now, is that there's a Direct next week. You know, it'd be interesting if Nintendo showed up one morning and just dropped like a 10 or 15 minute Direct mini or a partner showcase. And I mean, you could work this into that. You could also work another little advertising push for Pikmin 4, and then maybe a game to set up, I don't know, August or September. And I will say, for Nintendo's side, it would kind of make sense for them to do a Direct next week if they were going to do one, even if it's like a mini or a partner showcase, just to get some announcements out there, considering they do have their annual gathering of the shareholders at the end of next week. Maybe they want to start lining up the second half of the year so that they don't walk into that shareholders meeting with some big money investors and them just talk about Pikmin 4 for like an hour. Yeah, you get out there, show off some games coming from partners, maybe a few first-party games to line up the second half of the year, and then you push towards your big September direct where you really set things in motion to start off things like 2024. But we'll see. It's not too much longer. Maybe next week we have Nintendo announce it, or who knows, maybe they just drop like a 15 to 20 minute direct on us out of nowhere. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about a game that's been rumored for a little while and appears to have been confirmed through way of the ratings board, which tends to happen pretty much all the time, but we can see this posted up by Gamatsu, where they say Lego 2K Goooal, that's with 3 O's, rated in Korea. It's a 2K published soccer game, which seems to be imminent considering it's now been rated. And hey, you know what? That would actually make a lot of sense to showcase that in a direct that maybe just gets dropped out of nowhere. We'll see. But this appears to be something that VGC talked about, I believe, last year. And remember, we also had Lego 2K Drive get unveiled, and this just seems to be the partnership between Lego and Take-Two and 2K to create a string of these different games. And I like the idea of this mostly because it's very obvious this would be a more arcadey experience for soccer or football. And Mario Strikers really missed the mark for me, so I don't know if this is necessarily going to fill in that gap that Mario Strikers left, but I would like to see them try, and just maybe we could have a really fun, over-the-top, online 4 players on one team arcade experience for soccer or football games. I welcome them because they can be a good time without being too serious and have to basically always play FIFA. But we'll see. The fact that it's being rated now tells me, yes, it's probably coming up in the next month or so for an announcement. And as what we saw with Lego 2K Drive, could end up launching later this year, just a few months after its announcement. And before we go to the comment of the day, where I take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, if you were picking up Persona 3 Reload, what system do you want it on? Okay, 34% PS5 and PS4, and that makes sense. The Persona series has basically existed on the PlayStation system, the PlayStation brand, up until very recently, so it makes sense. But then look at that, 31% on the Switch, 17% on the Xbox, and then 18% on the PC. With the Switch, it does make sense. These RPGs, especially like these turn-based RPGs, I think work really, really well for handheld systems like the Switch that has that mode. Just the fact that you can pick up and play, put it in sleep mode, put it down, or if maybe you're playing in bed or on the couch while you're watching something on TV, it all kind of plays into that, especially with some of the grindy nature to, well, Persona 3 as we know it now. I wonder if it'll change up much with Persona 3 Reload. But it is interesting where we stand right now with Persona 3 Reload. Heading to the Xbox, but not the Switch. I guess we'll see. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from user who says, imagine how cool it'll be if Starfield puts Halo rings in the game that we can visit as an Easter egg. Yeah, I think Microsoft and Bethesda should absolutely do this after Starfield comes out. Down the road, add planets that are crossovers with different intellectual properties. As you mentioned, a ring for Halo. That would be really cool. And it would add to the idea of Starfield continuing to evolve after release, and they can do all kinds of stuff. They could have a planet that's like Gears of War themed, sort of, right? They could do one that's like one big ocean and little bits of land here and there, and it's for Sea of Thieves. They could have one planet that's like half exploded and unfinished, and it's the Scalebound planet. There's a lot of possibilities, and I hope that's something they really lean into. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Where's the Persona 3 Reload, Nintendo Switch, Nintendo Direct situation? Do you think they're just waiting to announce it for the Switch and there's a Direct right around the corner? And then also, what about the PlayStation Plus lineup for June, as well as the ability to stream games that you own on your PS5 without having to download them right away? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.